Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200.
Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. This is Merrill Hutchinson alongside my partner in life, Linda Hutchinson. Hello, Miss Linda. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
Why do I call you Miss Linda? Where did that come from?
I think it's from our teaching days when you were Mr. Hutchinson, or Mr. Hutch.
Mr. Hutch. And you were working in the church and I had all those little kids running around there. All of them called you Mrs. Hutchinson.
Oh, well. Or Miss Linda.
Miss Linda.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I got my tea. I'm ready to go. Just, I'm not sure if anyone got a chance to listen to last week's show, but if you didn't get a chance, we talked about anxiety
and depression in kids.
And it was definitely one of our most important shows because of the epidemic, the uptick of anxiety and depression, and not just kids, but adults. And so we really addressed both in this show. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode, please go back and listen or share it with someone who may be benefited from it. I think it was really an important one.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's kind of at this epidemic sort of level, but you don't see things getting smoother on planet Earth anytime soon. And so a lot of it has to do with the craziness that we create, but then how are we going to deal with it? So hopefully that helps. And, if we can help you or any of your kiddos with anxiety and depression type things, let us know. You can reach out to us. We'll get into our website and all that in a second, but I got a question for you.
What?
Were you a catty little girl?
What do you mean catty?
Catty. Yeah, little cliques, like elementary school, early high school. Did you have secrets and little cliques?
I can't tell you. It's a secret.
Yeah. There you go. That answered that question, didn't it, guys?
Well, it actually goes perfect with our topic.
Well, I was
today.
trying to prompt you, and you shut me down, but you walked right into it. So it's a secret, huh?
Yeah, and I wanted to, finally you let me have the title of this show today.
Oh, is it by, I
always give titles and then he totally decides, no, I don't like that one. So this one I'm hoping becomes You're Only as Sick as Your Secrets, because that is a line that I use all the time in our office about when we hold on to these secrets, when we keep from people and we're not transparent and honest, how that breaks down the relationship, but also builds up the anxiety and the fears in you, the secret keeper. And so we're going to talk about that. When is it ever right to keep a secret? And what does that look like?
Yeah, well, and sometimes I think we minimize secrets because we don't know how it's going to work out. But we're also going to talk a little bit, too, about the difference between a lie and a secret. Yeah. Because there's a big difference there. Yeah. And when we start to cloud the water with lies or secrets, then, we can start to create a lot of reasons for what we do. So we're going to get into all of that. Before we do, let's thank our sponsors, and then we'll kind of break that out. So Rock Solid Families Rock Solid Radio would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for sponsoring the Rock Solid Radio show. So we want to thank those guys and just greatly appreciate their support. Also, we just want to thank all of the folks that are out there supporting and listening. And, we get very encouraging emails and text messages and things like that. And sometimes I think, it's just like when you're a teacher, you never quite know how much you help someone. Yeah. Until down the road, you get a message where they say, you said something one day. And, as a teacher and a counselor, it's not like you're building a wall and you get to see your progress each day. And you go, today I got this much done. Yeah. And so we appreciate that. And we just want to thank you guys for that kind of encouragement.
Yeah. So if you don't know about Rock Solid Families, you can go to our website, rocksolidfamilies.org, and check out what we do. But we work with families, couples, individuals. And one of the biggest things, hun, and it's a word we haven't used yet when it comes to secrets and why they're so damaging, is the word trust. And we deal with folks coming into our office every day who have broken trust. They don't trust anybody. They feel like they've been betrayed. They feel like no one has their back. They don't believe anybody's stories anymore because they've been hurt over and over and over again. And so we're really going to connect the two of what does secrets do to relationships and how it just erodes the trust, especially in a marriage, specifically, or mom and dad to kids, parent-child relationship, siblings, coworkers, you name it.
Well, we've done entire shows on the foundation of any relationship is established in trust. And you're not even going to do a business deal with the car dealer down the street if you find out that that's a person you can't trust. And so trust is the centerpiece here. And secrets make you start to either doubt or full out lose the trust that you have. And so that's why they can be very dangerous. But, I think, in our world, we've all experienced secrets, and I was teasing before a little bit, like as little kids, I'm going to tell you a secret, keep my secret. You have your little group, the He-Man Woman Hater Club, and we would tell secrets. And so what's the deal with a secret anyway? Why would I keep a secret?
Well, it's so funny because we actually had this, and I think you were gone that night. It was the kids and I, and we have a question of the night every night, and it's little conversation cards. And one of the cards was, is it ever okay to not keep a friend's secret or something like that? Or is it okay to keep a friend's secret? And so our son was like, well, and I said, so like if a friend said, oh, I'm crushing on her, but don't tell anybody. He's like, well, that's the kind I tell. And I'm like, okay, wait a second.
Thank you. What a great friend.
What a great friend.
Guys, we're trying. Okay.
And it's like that confidence, that confidentiality that your friend shared with you about something that doesn't harm anybody, that it building trust with the two of you to keep that in confidence. But if that same friend came to you and said, don't tell anybody, but I want to kill myself. I said, that's when holding a secret and not telling anybody is damaging and destructive. And so we kind of talked about that, but I was blown away by his answer.
So you're getting to a point there that you can't make a blanket statement then about all secrets. And I think that's part of our job today is to actually go through some of the thought process of what needs to go behind exposing a secret or not, and then even differentiating between the secret or maybe are there half-truths or even lies in that. I think first off, there's a couple of things that we just have to remember, and the idea, the concept of secret means something's being hidden. It's being held back. And then you have to kind of ask the question, well, why would that be held back? And it's usually to protect somebody's interest. It might be the person who's keeping the secret, or it could be trying to protect somebody so that they're not hurt from hearing it. So, but you're trying to usually hide something, and you're usually trying to protect someone's interest, either self or another person.
Yeah, if you've listened to Rock Solid Radio at all, you know that we have 5 children, and our youngest 3 were by through adoption, and they were 11, 10, and 7. And I'll never forget really harping on this honesty, truthfulness, trust, no secrets. And so I remember trying to keep something from you as far as a Christmas present or a birthday present or something like that. And one of them was like throwing it back in my face, like, you told us no secrets. And so we had to kind of differentiate. The surprise party is a little different than I spent too much money in the store, don't tell dad, or I'm having this affair or something like that. So we have to see, is the secret for an interest of surprise and blessing, or is it to cover up because you're covering your own butt, or, you're ashamed of what you've done? There's a little difference there.
Yeah. So, I think in general, you can think of a secret as something you keep in the dark. Right? And let's talk a little bit about the opposite of a secret. And so in our world, instead of secrets, we oftentimes will encourage couples to be in transparency. In other words, let the light shine in on it. Let it be exposed. Look through that. And again, that is not always easy. And so we're not just making a blanket statement to that, but the secret is the dark and the transparent is the light. And so trying to work in the light is obviously where we're trying to be.
I didn't even think this was going to fit in this story today, but this is perfect. So
wait, should I get ready to edit something?
No, it is so cute. So we had Healthy Moms today, and I was back with the little preschoolers, and I'm singing songs with them. And one of them is This Little Light of Mine. I'm going to let it shine. Okay. And some of these kids have never heard that song before. So I'm teaching them, like, don't let Satan it out. Don't let Satan blow it out. I'm going to let it shine. And so one of the kids said, "Who's Satan?" Okay. And before I could say anything, one of the little boys goes, "Well, you know, it's the devil."
The devil.
The devil.
The devil. The devil made me do it.
Right. The devil wants to blow your light out.
Right.
And so I thought that was cute. The devil.
It is cute. It is cute.
I just had to fit that in. That's kind of
guys,
cute.
Bear with me. I'm hanging in there. Okay. I'm hanging in there.
Hey, this verse that I love comes out of Ephesians 4, or actually Ephesians 5.
Yeah.
But I use this all the time, okay? And it says, Ephesians 5, 6 through 14, okay? It is so important. It says, don't be fooled by those who try to excuse these sins, okay? Like secrecy and lying. For the anger of God will fall on all who disobey him. Don't participate in the things these people do. For once you were full of darkness. In other words, you were hiding in the dark, right? You were lying in secrets. But now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of light. For this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. And that's where we got to go in like, okay, why am I keeping this a secret? Is it because it's your birthday party and I don't want you to know and ruin it? Take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. It is shameful even to talk about the things that ungodly people do in secret. But their evil intentions will be exposed, whether in this life or the next life, when the light shines on them. For the light makes everything visible. And so it's just a reminder, like, God sees you. We talked about this actually in the little preschool class too. Like, even if you go in the dark and hide in the closet, God still sees you.
Right.
You know?
Oh man, that's disappointing. You mean?
Hey, it's good to know and start young.
Yeah. So let's talk about like how we actually work through it. So we have 7 understandings of secrets and transparency in the marriage. Okay. And I think something to start it off with is that whole idea of Christ. And we've talked about this many times. Christ is the bride, groom, and the church, or us, we are the bride. And so the idea of, he makes a statement that we are no longer servants, but he calls us friends. And he shares everything with us. He shares everything. And so in the marriage, we're thinking that way, like everything is shared. Okay. Everything is shared. And so from the get-go, we're talking about being on equal playing ground here, equal playing ground with each other.
Yeah,
right?
and that's why when we do premarital counseling, one of the myths that we bust right off the bat is this myth of, if the secret's going to hurt my partner, then I'm not going to share it with them. It's better to keep it a secret.
Right.
And we bust that and we say, hey, you go home from this session today. If there's anything that you have still in the dark, that is haunting you, that you feel like if your partner found out, it would be a game changer or it would hurt them, then you need to share that before they find out, because it's going to be doubly painful if they find out instead of you being honest and open with them.
Right. So let's start with number 1.
Okay.
And number 1 is, it's best to work from this assumption. And the assumption is that there are no secrets. Okay, so
in a marriage,
marriage, there are no secrets. Let's be wide open and transparent. That's kind of like, okay, that's where we want to work to. And all of the ifs, ands, or buts, we can work about that later. But from the get-go, we want to say, hey, we really want to be transparent. And so there's lots of different things behind that, but the bottom line is trust, as you talked about before. We have to make sure that your words and your actions match. And so what they see and what they hear never are in conflict with each other, because every day that's what's building a stronger and stronger foundation in the relationship through trust. So from the get-go, transparency is really where we want to go.
And I don't know why I put that condition on marriage, because we really want all relationships to be honest and transparent. Now, I'm going to talk to the parents out there who maybe have some things in their past that they're not proud of. And so are you going to tell a 5-year-old what you did as a teenager or a college student? They're probably not going to ask the questions. But if they ask the questions at age 5, the answer is going to be very watered down, age appropriate versus what you're going to tell a 16-year-old. And so 16-year-olds, I want you to be honest and transparent,
right?
Because I do want them to know you're not perfect and they can hear your mistakes. Don't lie to them, because if they think this is unreachable and that what I've done is unforgivable, then they're just going to go sink deeper into the darkness. They need to know that even if they've touched the darkness and even if they've dabbled in the ugly lies and secrets, that they too can be redeemed. You actually could be a redemption story to them.
But, in saying that, like even at 16, it's very different than they're at 5. But even at 16, they're not necessarily an adult.
Right.
And so I'm still talking age appropriate.
Right.
If my 16-year-old said, Dad, did you ever do this when you were younger? I need to think twice, because he may not have the skill or ability to do the adult thing with that. And so
do you lie?
Well, I think we have to be really careful about just saying, and you and I have talked about this before, it's like you don't tell them everything you've ever done. Did we have premarital sex? Did you get drunk? Did you do drugs? To lay that all out, and you have a 16-year-old who's really in their mind just looking for permission to do something. Right. So you have to be very thoughtful about where they are to understand what is going to happen.
And so you don't have to lie to them, but you can say, I've done things I'm not proud of. Or I've done things I wish I could do differently, and I don't want that for you. So it's not a lie, it's not a secret, but you're, like you said, it's age appropriate, and we're not going to give the dirty details. But in a marriage, if a partner looks at you and says, I want to know the details, then you really have to evaluate, okay, how do I say this, or how do I prepare them for maybe some really ugly stuff that maybe they're not emotionally ready to hear. But please, don't lie. Don't lie, because it's really going to be harder down the road if they find out it was all a lie.
Yeah, and so that's what we're talking about, separating the secret from the truth or lie, okay? And so the lie is a cover-up, which is going to do greater damage than the actual secret itself, that you didn't come out and were forthcoming when they asked. And so, like you said, we sometimes have to be very careful. Are you sure you want to talk about this? Right. Are you sure? Are you able to handle this? Just like we've talked in many shows before. Mom and Dad, are you sure you want to know the truth from your kids? Okay. Yeah. And so you just have to, these are thoughtful things. And by the way, we're not giving you cookie cutter answers on these things, because this is where number 2 comes in.
Right.
And number 2 is you got to keep the communication often and healthy.
Yep.
That has to be one of the staples in the relationship. So in Linda and I's work, one of our very first things that we do with couples, and sometimes I think they think it's so like elementary.
This is what I came here for?
Yeah, but we start making it mandatory practice that every day they do at least a 10 to 15 minute check-in. And the reason is because most couples do not have a habit of communicating well.
Right.
All right.
Often.
They'll communicate with, hey, babe, how you doing? What's going on? And then they'll just walk right past each other. And so you have an accumulation of stuff, unresolved stuff, tension, emotions, even secrets. All right. And so from the get-go, we have to be always developing first that relationship. How well can we communicate? And listen, even us who do this for a living, I'm an avoider by nature. I'm going to avoid some of those tougher conversations. And so I have to kind of double down, and Linda has to sometimes pick up on that, there's something going on with me, and we have to be willing to sit down and go, all right, listen, here's kind of what's going on.
I had a perfect example of that years ago. I had a man walk in my office at the church, and he sat down and started bawling, and he says, I have a secret I can't keep anymore. And he and his wife had pretty much drifted apart, and they were just kind of coexisting as roommates. And he had lost his job, and he didn't know how to tell his wife because he was the sole breadwinner. And so he literally for 2 weeks had been going to McDonald's every day and sitting there from 8 to 5 because he didn't know how to tell his wife
Right.
he had lost his job. That's because the communication had broken down, and the wife was pretty much just kind of going through the motions, and he was going through the motions. She didn't even pick up on the fact that he was being eaten alive by the secret.
Right.
And not even picking up on, hey, what's up, And he felt so scared to come and be vulnerable with her. And man, it was bringing the wife in and the husband in, and honestly helping work through that. And she was devastated, more so that he didn't feel safe coming to her.
Well, that gets us to number 3.
Yep.
And number 3 is, as we're on a regular basis, a daily basis, establishing communication and effective communication within each other. The marriage is based off of a strong understanding and practice of empathy. And so empathy is, before you get all out in front of yourself as to how you feel about something, running it through their eyes and their heart. So how would they feel if they knew this news? What would they think? And so empathy is a practice, and we do this with our kids. Parents are very good at picking up on how their kids are feeling, okay? And so the same thing needs to run here. Like the idea here that he did not trust how she would handle it, or he was totally confused and didn't know how to deal with that, tells us that there was more of a problem of empathy and communication issues going on than probably everything else that led him to the 2 weeks of McDonald's and eating junk food.
I have had a lot of clients come in with secrets. Some would say they've never told anyone. And I had a woman years and years ago who came to our church, and she was bawling on Right to Life Sunday. And she asked to come and meet me in my office. And she shared with me, I was the first person to find out that over 40 years ago, she had had an abortion. And so for 40 years, she has been just overwhelmingly in despair when they would have this Right to Life Sunday and celebrate, life and talk about Roe versus Wade. And it was like, it was just re-injuring her over and over again. She was married for 40 years, actually 30 something years to this husband. And she felt like it would be the deal breaker for him. It happened before she ever met her husband.
Right.
And so the fear in her was, I don't know what this would do to our marriage. And my heart broke for her that for 40 years she had been tormented by this secret.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one because, especially if you've had 40 years of a really decent quality marriage and family that you built out of that. All right. And so I think that gets us to our next point, and that is timing. Timing is important when we are going to let out particular deeper secrets or things we're just a little bit scared of. The idea here is just like you just talked about there, hon, I need to look at, okay, was this an event in the past? Is this something that's going on now? Or is this something that I'm afraid could be happening in the future? Or how will it impact the future? And so these are not things you just take lightly. How I assess something that my spouse did 30 or 40 years ago, I can't throw away everything that we've done over these years.
Right.
I'm going to have to be able to go, okay, wait a minute. Grace is what our Christian faith is based off of. So we just have to be thoughtful. I'm not saying that you would keep that a secret. What I'm saying is you got to weigh this. What impact will it have? And what was the timing of this thing that took place?
And you don't want it to come up at a Bengals party with a bunch of friends that it comes out, the secret comes out. And so if you are being tormented by a secret, a lie that you've been keeping from your family or coworkers or your boss or somebody like that, then I encourage you, one, to get help. So if it's just paralyzing you, get some help, get some professional help, somebody confidential that can kind of you share and unload this, and then create a plan for the timing of revealing it and to who and to how, because you want to control that. So maybe it is your spouse that doesn't know that you were not a virgin when you got married and that you want to tell them because it's eating you up. Then this is when you get some help and you prayerfully go to your wife or spouse and say, I got to talk to you about something and it's really hard and I know it's going to hurt and I know that it's not what I've told you, but I want to tell you. I want you to hear from me. That's going to sound a lot different than the ex-girlfriend or the ex-boyfriend calling the spouse and saying, hey, by the way, I was your spouse is first,
Right, right. Well, so that gets to our next point, and that is, magnitude is important. When I talk about magnitude, how big, but here's the problem with magnitude. Magnitude, or how big a deal is this in whose eyes?
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is where you better know your spouse, and you better learn. And this is how, it's why we've talked about in many, many, many shows. The two of you better establish what you value together in life, the things that you value. And so over time, when you understand what each other values, and you find out, like, man, I know this would be a big deal. Okay. That allows you to seek greater counsel in terms of, how would I lay this out?
Yeah.
Okay. And that, like you said, you might need to go get a third party.
Yeah.
This is where counselors and coaches, mediators can come in and help.
Okay. I've got a confession.
On live camera. Here we go.
I have a secret that it ate me up. And I never even really told you, I don't think, but I, in college, had to read a book like this thick. And it was like a dictionary. And we didn't have to take a test on it. All we had to do was sign this piece of paper that we read this gigantic book, which the author of this gigantic book was my professor.
Oh.
Okay. And so he just wanted to know you read it. And so I signed that paper, and it was a grade, and I turned it in. And that secret ate me up to a point where I'm thinking,
I would have not married you.
Oh my gosh. I was so riddled with guilt on that I felt like the Lord was going to strike me down. And so I did try to read it, but holy cow, it was literally like, it was a concordance. It was literally like reading a dictionary. And so I went to the professor, and he's passed now, Dr. Jack Cottrell. I love him dearly. And I went to Dr. Cottrell, and I just said, I have to be honest with you. And I know that in your syllabus, it says this could destroy my grade. But I need to let you know that I signed that paper, and I did not finish reading that book, and it was due. And so I signed it, and I was waiting for the hammer, and he said, thank you for letting me know. That's all he said. And then I was waiting for my grade. Right. And it didn't affect my grade. And I just thought, whew, okay, I can feel better. But man, just the weight of that, like, here I am, I'm in a seminary, no lie, a real theology class, and I lied, and I kept the secret. And so again, I know it seems little in magnitude. For me, I had blown that up into, I'm going to fail that class, and I'm going to drop out of the seminary and lose my degree and all these things because I kept the secret.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why we have to be careful about whether that's a big deal or not, because, somebody guilty like me goes, oh, I've done that a few times. Okay. And I'm ready to give a pass, but somebody who is more particular and has higher integrity in those issues might really be struck by that. Yeah. And so I think,
forgive me if it does.
Well, but again, I mean, it's just that same way of how people handle things differently. And especially when we're in our marriage, you've established between the two of you what you value. All right. And, it could be very different if you and I had determined a certain value and you blew that value away by something that you did. Okay. And so that's why it's very difficult. Do not project your value system on somebody's secret. You keep that within the relationship. Well, what do the two of them have that they're trying to protect? So I think that's a great thing. And I'm not going to tell any of my secrets because that would get even weirder.
Well, it made me think of that because Dr. Cottrell is, passed recently, and, he was a great man, but whew, that was an intense one. So
yeah. But these are just the kinds of things that I think they require the conversation and knowing people and not making the assumption that it's not a big deal or it is a big deal. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 6, and I think that you kind of alluded to this at the beginning, hon, because I think this is so important in so many different aspects of our relationships, not just marriage, but out of the marriage as well. And that is to assess the intentions of people. Because intentions, like, first off, get off your holy throne and think that you're perfect when you see somebody make a mistake. I say this often, like, seldom do I ever come into contact with somebody who has an intention to do something bad and evil. But it is because of circumstance comes about, that all of a sudden they don't know how to handle. There's anxiety, there's confusion, and they make in their mind a split second call on it. And they didn't do it because I know this will destroy people. They did it because I didn't know what else to do. Right. And so this is where we have to back off a little bit, and we have to say, wait, well, what were the intentions of this person?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So intentions are very important here.
Yeah. And the longer it goes a secret, then the bigger magnitude it can be.
Yeah.
And so if I last night didn't tell you that I had gone to Skyline on the way home from the office instead of coming home, and you said, "What'd you do for dinner last night?" Then, all of a sudden I was like, I cooked some, grilled cheese. And then I felt this like, okay, I lied. I really went to Skyline. And somebody's going to tell Merrill that they saw me at Skyline. So
if you're not from our area, then you don't understand what Skyline is, but it's probably it's the Cincinnati area.
Yeah. And it's the only thing in town.
Go to cheap food.
It's the only thing in St. Leon. But my point is that I caught myself realizing that, okay, that was wrong. That was a lie. And I don't want to keep that a secret. That's silly. And so I'm going to say, hey, last night you asked me about what I did for dinner. And to be honest, I went to Skyline, and that was wrong of me to say. And so it really just kind of like takes the wind out of the sail. Well, brings the light into the darkness.
If I ask, that's when you do reveal the secret and don't replace it
with another lie.
With a lie.
Right.
And so this is where we get into problems, or even what we'll get into the washed down truth. Well, I just did this, and this is not nearly as bad as that.
Right.
So
it's the lie of admission and the lie of omission.
Yeah.
Right?
And so we just have to be careful, not substituting lies for secrets.
Right. Yeah. And so trust and grace must go hand in hand if we're going to restore broken secrets. And so, again, my grandfather used to say that the ground is level at the foot of the cross, that none of us deserve heaven, salvation, forgiveness, but he has given it to us all. And so if he's given it to us all, then we're called to do that. Now, again, it's different than trust. Trust takes two. So if you've been having a lot of secrets and lies and you get caught, and you're not repentant and you're not changing, then it's going to be hard for whoever that is, your boss, whether that be a sibling, your parent, whether that be a spouse, to trust you again. And they shouldn't.
Right.
That's different than grace, okay? But if they keep crucifying you over that mistake you made and that secret you kept, then that's different. Trust and grace got to go hand in hand.
Yeah, the seventh point of us building trust and grace is important. And we always talk about the idea of we have to build trust before we start extending grace. If you just extend grace and the person's not doing anything to build the trust, then we're naive, right? And we're being ignorant, right? But when we see the person that is actually doing the work to say, I really think this relationship is important, and if you need me to start doing these things, then I want to show you, not tell you, I want to show you that I'm willing to do them. And when you see the heart of that person starts to show you that they want to build this trust, then if you hold back the grace, if you hold back like, no, you haven't done enough yet, then you better think twice, because is that what we want Christ to do to us?
So grace and trust are both important.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line, is that, we do need to work on rebuilding trust, but that does take two. And forgiveness is something we're commanded to do. So again, we're saying secrets aren't worth it. They're not worth the relationship. They're not worth the torment that you will experience by holding on to that, thinking that you're saving face, or you're covering your rear end, or that you want to keep that relationship intact, because you're constantly going to be watching your back, worried that it's going to come out. And the longer it goes, the harder it is to restore the relationship.
Yeah. So as we walk into our challenge, just walk in with the idea of, let's work towards the idea of transparency. Let's work towards that idea that we want to be an open book to each other. And this goes everywhere from our phones to our money expenditures to our time usage. These things need to be an open book. Yep. And because on a daily basis, this is where remember, trust is the foundation here. On a daily basis, we are establishing that there is trust here in this relationship, okay?
Right, yeah.
And so these are the things that you want to start working on and making sure before you even have to think about a secret or not,
Right.
Do I trust this person?
Right.
And do they trust me?
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about Big Brother, like watching from above. We're talking about you wanting to be transparent, giving the password to your spouse,
Right.
letting your person look through your phone, telling your boss that you have a record or that, you stole something. Like, let's be honest and upfront, because that's what's going to develop honest, trustworthy relationships and really where you're going to find your peace. And so we're hoping that you just take this advice and really take to heart the importance of transparency.
All right. So if you need any help, if you can walk through your life and see that, man, we've been holding some secrets and we definitely see that it's an obstacle in our marriage or in other relationships, feel free to reach out to us, if nothing else, to help maybe be the mediator to help you figure out the plan for how you could start to maybe break the ice on some of these more difficult subjects. So, we just want to thank you guys. We want to thank Maxwell Construction and Casey's Outdoor Solutions for their continued support. If you would do us a favor, give us 5-star ratings, subscribe to our channel, and share the shows, please. Share these shows.
So thank you so much for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.